Hello, my name's John, this is Vandoth The Fallen, and you're watching Wargames, Models, and Other Hobbies. Hello and welcome back to another video. A few videos ago you'd have seen me building the Necromunda character Vandoth The Fallen here. Since then I have primed him and I've decided today that I'm going to start painting him in this video. Now I'm not sure how far I'm going to get, but I'm going to go through the processes that I normally do when painting. So the first thing that I always start with is the lowest level of detail on the model, and in this case it is going to be his skin. So let me get some paint out and we'll begin. So I'm going to start with some Kislev flesh to paint this model. Now I've got a few new brushes that I'm going to test out in this video as well, which have slightly bigger handles for me to hold so I don't end up dropping this. I have a dry paint palette. I prefer using a dry paint palette, putting paint on there, adding water and so on, but I don't have a wet palette. Personal preference, entirely up to you how you want to paint. So I'm going to just start with this first layer. Now the key thing whenever I paint the first layer on any model is I don't care about it being too tidy. The whole purpose is just to get paint onto this thing, and then I can start working out details and things like that. So yeah, I'm just going to be throwing this on. I don't mind if it goes all over the place, but let's just quickly get some paint on. Now there is a variety of different details on this model. So we have the little ports and things, and I have just loosed, as a bristle has come off this brush already. So not rating the brushes straight away. What I probably should have done is really run it through the water first. Let me do that now. Hopefully we won't have any more shedding, but we shall see. If there is, I will go back to my trusty old brushes. It's always nice to see how some new brushes work. Now, I don't know how much I'm going to paint with this today. It's one of those processes. I love painting, but I need to be in the right mood to kind of create the finishes that I want, the looks that I want. And I find if I haven't painted for a long time, which I haven't, it takes me a little bit of time to get back into it. And I kind of not forget, but I start to doubt the process that I'm kind of going for. Everyone has their own painting style, but like anything, if you don't do it for a while, you kind of feel a little bit kind of lost within it. So this is my kind of getting back into it video. I want to get all of the skin done on this model, and basically I'll go through the processes that I do to finish off any of the details. And yeah, I'm not too worried about it being tidy, like I said. I do have so much to paint as well. I have a lot of Space Marines to paint, but I have to say I've put things on hold with my Warhammer 40,000 things until 11th edition comes out, mainly because I don't want to kind of spend some time on something and then it doesn't kind of fit in with either the new rules or something like that. So, but from what I understand, the pre-order for 11th edition, by the time this video comes out, might have been last week or tomorrow. So I will be looking forward to picking up a copy, and I'm kind of thinking about possible conversions that I can do, and there are some nice models in it. The orcs I'm really interested in. I really need to finish off my very slow growing orc army, and I think that's the big problem with armies as a project. It's you've got a lot to work on, unlike something like this with a Necromunda model where it's just one thing. You have to kind of make sure you have a whole army sorted, and I have ordered and am waiting for the most recent Kill Team box set with the Imperial Guard versus Tyranids, and I'm looking forward to getting that. I do really like the look of the Red Terror in that kit, so that is something that I will be posting on the channel when it arrives, and I will go through the building of that and painting of that, and that's something which I'm thinking of getting into Kill Team because of that very quick process of a single squad and so on. But yeah, I do like whole armies. Kind of, what do I like? I like the process of designing armies and then making them, but I do take a long time over it. So sometimes I kind of, well, yeah, I have a lot of projects on the go at one time. But anyway, I have just painted over this Kislev flesh onto the body of Vandoth here, and what I'm gonna do, even though my videos are real time, I am gonna wait a little bit to let the paint dry of each one, so there are going to be a few little cuts as I wait for the paint to dry. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I've painted that base coat of Kislev flesh. Let's do that again. So I've painted that base coat of Kislev flesh on Vandoth here. Now I'm going to do a few cuts in this video. Normally I do it in real time, but there's going to be a few little bits that aren't going to be that interesting, so I will do a few cuts here and there. But the next thing that I need to do for the way that I paint skin is apply a wash, a shade, and in this case I'm going to use some Reekland Flesh Shade. And with this layer, similar to the last one, I'm not going to worry too much about it being tidy. This is so I can start to get a little bit of depth of colour to the model itself. So it's not something that, again, I need to be too worried about it being super tidy, but I do want to make sure I don't end up with any bits that are, at this stage, overly flooded with any pigment or anything like that. So let's apply the wash all the way around, and I might pick out some kind of areas of the skin with a few other washes and tones down the way, but I just want to get this basic level of colour on here, as the lore for this guy hints at his background being a possible blood angel. Then I may lighten the skin slightly depending on what state of, I don't know, vampiric bloodlust he's at. Now I'm aware that there are some videos dotted around online that state that he is a dark angel because of his name, Vandoth The Fallen, and there are fallen dark angels. But it is quite clear when you see the little blood vials and things like that on this character. Yeah, he is a blood angel or a successor chapter, you never know. But with the colour and everything of the armour, kind of hints at blood angels. And yeah, it's whether he was a scout who was left behind or turned, who knows. But, okay, there is, nice and quick that one, the flesh shade wash on there. Now I do want to let that dry thoroughly before I do another layer of colour on the skin. What I also want to do when I get that other layer done is where we've got the little metal kind of ports in his arms, the what looks like metal bracelets around his wrists, and also the kind of the guard that's going over his eyes. I want to get that painted, and I might not do it in this video, but I will attempt to do the teeth and the tongue of this guy, but we shall see. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry a bit and then we'll get on to the next stage. Okay, so that wash, that shade has pretty much dried. So my next step, I am going to do a little bit of a dry brush. I'm actually going to use some Rakarth flesh, so really knock the colour back quite a bit. And I've got some new little dry brushes, which we'll see how they go. So, as with dry brushes, a little bit of paint goes on, then all of the paint comes off. Now I don't know how well this is going to come across on camera, but I just want to get a little bit of depth to the flesh colours, but lighten them up slightly. So we shall see. It's one of those processes I find I kind of will probably come back to the flesh tones as I paint the model. But actually that's quite like how that's coming out. I think it's coming out on camera, I can't quite tell. There we go. Right, let's throw that dry brush on the floor. Perfect, okay. Now, because I dry brushed that, I'm quite happy to get on with the next part straight away. So I am going to get some Rune Fang steel, and I'm going to paint the ports and plugs around on the arms, and probably at the same time paint the visor in this as well. So a Apologies if I go a little bit quiet while I do this, as I concentrate. And my aim with these is, once they have dried, I apply a wash to them as well. So it just deepens the colour in places and kind of highlights certain areas. So I like washes and I like dry brushes. So is this even focusing? I hope it is. Apologies if it's not focusing. I'm looking below the camera, so I'm not actually looking at the screen. If I go over the edges at all when doing these little plugs and things, it's not too much of a problem, because I can touch up the flesh colour after the washes and everything. There's one on the bicep as well. What I do find as I'm painting details like the skin or the head of the model, I start to find the personality of the model. Sounds a bit strange, but I do enjoy painting these kind of details early on, and I might leave it for a little while once I've painted flesh and the hair. The fly just went straight by the camera. I don't know if that was on camera or not, but I had a fly go right by me then. And I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the way I paint things. So it may be a case that I paint a model and then just wait for ages while I try and get a bit of inspiration, or I get the inspiration really quite quickly once painting the detail of their face or the flesh or whatever. Okay, that is now painting. Gonna wait again for that to dry for a little bit, so I'll see you in a second. Right, so I've allowed that to dry. I have also painted a little bit of corn red on the tongue and some white scar on the teeth, and then let that dry, because the next step is to use the magic paint known as Nuln Oil. Basically, you paint this over something as well as Agrax Earth shade, and it looks great. Well, meant to. We shall see. One thing you may notice as well through this whole process, I'm tending to use the same brush. I like using the same brush as I go when I do sessions of painting. I don't know why. It's just a habit I have. Now I'm hoping that because I used the lighter metallic, it's gonna dull down a little bit to closer to more of a kind of a gunmetal finish. And I'm realising that this Nuln Oil is definitely running out. I'm hoping it's staying in focus. Apologies if it's not in focus while I do all of these bits. Gonna need to get more Nuln Oil, I think. I've got quite a lot on the brush now. There we go. That's what I want. So what I tend to do with something like this is flood the area around where I'm working, and then I will do another stage of tidying up the flesh colour and surrounding colours later on. but I like to see how the Nuln Oil kind of knocks back. Oh, sorry, I keep moving out of focus. I need to draw a box on my work area so I know that I'm in shot, or I need to get a screen and put it just over there so it's in my eye line while working. If anyone has any recommendations for possible screens like that, please drop it in the comments. Likewise, if you've got any ideas for videos that you want to see, please drop it in the comments. There will be videos coming up on the channel with the new Kill Team box set, as well as plenty of 11th edition stuff. I just hope I have time to make the videos. Time does disappear very quickly. I did have some leave recently and I was thinking, I can make loads of videos, but no, I didn't. I made one, and kind of realising, as with most hobby time, making videos, you need to be in the right mood. Right. Now what I am going to do with this in the head is just run Nuln Oil around the outside and partially on the face there. Okay. So at the same time as that, I am going to get a little bit of Agrax and put that in a few places around the ports and things as well, just to give a little bit of varied colour that I can then kind of sort out on the edges. I do hope this is in focus. Apologies if it's not. Okay. Right. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Ooh, let's get this in focus. So there we go, the face and the arms there. So let's just take it off my painting stand. Let's try and get this in a little bit of better focus for you. Okay, there we go. It's quite happy with the way it's turning out at the moment. What I need to do now is just let this dry for a bit and then think about a few other colours. So for this video, I'm going to call it for this video, nothing too complicated, just painting those skin tones and adding a few little bit of details on those ports and things like that. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please stay tuned for any more of me painting Vandoth The Fallen. If you've got any other suggestions for videos, please drop it in the comments. But all I can say right now is thank you so much for tuning in. My name's John, and you've been watching Wargames, Models, and Other Hobbies.